Hey y'all, Sir Penguin here, and we are looking at a replay review submitted by our Byzantine player here. Backpak, who makes regular appearances on the Twitch stream, for those of you who watch, is here playing a little bit of Byzantine. He usually plays Mongols and has played some Rus and stuff like that in the past. Decided with the recent updates and with things like that to try some of the new Byzantine content, the new ways to play Byzantine. So we got a nice opening here, going to get the cistern, some villagers on the food, and getting it all started. He'll be in green, he's playing the Byzantines, and he's over here on the left side of Golden Pit. Gonna have to fight over the gold on this map regardless. There's only 2 gold spawns for each player outside of these big gold mines here in the middle. So, across from him, in the blue, we've got a player on China. Now, this game, just for clarity here, is going to be a game that Backpak struggled with. Going to be up against a China player who has climbed from here all the way to Diamond 3 since the game with Backpak. Backpak currently sitting in Platinum, I believe, and playing solos to climb on up from there. So, what kind of stuff are we going to be looking at? Against China, I want to say that the Byzantines want to put some of that early pressure on. You want to get some Castle Age pressure out. You want to distract China from being able to boom, because in the end, China's going to out-boom Byzantines. Byzantines are going to have a good late game, and they're going to have a strong eco, but I think China just wins the boom game, right? So you want to get some units out. You want to apply some pressure. Keep China from getting things like nested bees and stuff like that out too easily. I love the design on the Byzantine units. Like, the scouts look so cool. Look at that. Very cool. Now, going into this game, it looks pretty standard for both players so far. We got... The sheep are actually even a little too far from this mill. Usually you kind of want to, like, squeeze them up against the side, but blue here is not going to be doing that. We actually already have wood coming through as well. I'm curious, so we're going to get a Imperial Academy, like, right here, and a Barbican, maybe... Where does the Barbican go? Maybe on the stone? Maybe on the gold? Let's see. Depends what the play is here for our blue player. And we're going to be checking in on the blue player to see what their build is. Looking back over here at Backpak, we've got the Imperial Hippodrome coming up. It's coming up on the back, and I guess that's fine, but I think Backpak, you know, if you're watching this, and for my viewers, I think you want it on the front side. Because regardless of, like, it's a landmark, so putting it on the front side is a little dangerous. But this is a landmark that makes units. It's a production building. And as such, I think it's better to put it closer to your TC or closer to the front, so that when your units come out, they don't have this extra space that they have to run to get to the other side. It's not like a huge difference, but you know, that little split second or whatever could make the difference between being able to harass gold if they get a tower up and not. So maybe this is something you want to put on the front side. Everything looking good. Let's see the splits here. Yeah, splits look fine. Assuming you're going into a horseman, this makes a lot of sense. Food, wood, a little bit of gold for the upgrades. This looks all fairly in line with what you'd expect from Byzantine to me. Another thing to get used to, these houses can go even farther out. Like, they can go out on the edge of your gold, on the edge of your tree line and stone, because once you get the border settlements upgrade, they're actually a really useful scouting building. Because they're cheap, easy to get out, you know, all that kind of good stuff. So we have the fast wheelbarrow with feudal age. Not like an early wheelbarrow, but a nice early feudal age wheelbarrow. Get that eco coming in. We've got our first horseman coming out as well. That's nice. We've got the triumph ability with just the starting tickets here, the 10 tickets. And yeah, this is all looking in line with what you'd expect from the Byzantines. A nice little aqueduct. I see this house kind of blocking it. There's another reason these houses can go on the outside of your base. It makes it easier to build a straight aqueduct. Because it's annoying when these things start curving and doing weird stuff. They can block like farm spaces, like right here. Stuff like that. Just gotta be careful. If they're straight, they don't block as much stuff because they sit in between building lines. See what China's doing over on the other side. I think we need a better idea of what China's doing. You know, make sure to scout here. And it looks like your scout's coming across now. Yeah, here comes the scouting. With the horseman, good call. Barbican going way out on the side, and that's a smart Barbican. That's a pretty clever Barbican, all things considered. It would be nice to protect the gold, but that's so deep inside the TC's range. You build a Barbican here, you have an additional gold, additional stone, deer pack, and a wood line. Oh, and the berries back here. Wow, that's a really nice Barbican. So this is going to be hard to pressure. Obviously, when you see this, yeah. There's some spears here, got to be careful. Nice, picks off a villager. Hitting that triumph, really nice right there. Take advantage of that damage bonus and gets 3 villagers for it, at least. No expilatores, I see, so no gold coming out of these villagers. That's fine. This is a great attack, though. That's, yeah. Giving a little too much away here, I think. Maybe wanted to get out of there, although we do get the villager, so just one horseman is not the death of us here. That's fine. I think when you see these spearmen back at home, you should be dropping a archery range almost immediately. You have a lot of wood here, and it doesn't look to me like you're going into any... Yeah. I think because you see these spears, you can get archers faster than any other unit. If you're going javelin throwers or longbows out of the mercenary camp, I think you're still gonna get an archer out faster with an archery range. And these spears are gonna stop you from putting any more pressure on the stone or the gold or whatever Blue's going for. And that's a fairly late Song Dynasty there. You've done a good job of delaying the Song Dynasty backpack. I like that a lot. But again, once these spears are out, I really think you want to just immediately drop that archery range. Because for now, and I gotta say this, for now, 2 mercenary houses, I feel is too much too early. You're not gonna get enough olive oil out of these to make 2 worth it. We do have, okay, longbows coming out. I like the Western mercenary choice. That's a very good choice given the given the spearmen. I still think, yeah, with all this wood sitting in your coffer here, with a lot of wood gatherers, drop that archery range and start pumping out some archers. We're not going for a TC. Just go ahead and get into the archer production. Keep the horsemen coming. Because if you're putting on a lot of pressure here, and obviously you're not going for a kill or anything like that, but use your advantage with Byzantine to get unit production out, because if China chooses to switch one of these imperial officials over to one of the buildings, they can pump out units. So I would say as soon as you see spears, you want archers. I mean, it's the classic thing a lot of top players say. You should be countering what you see, not what you think. So the longbows, great choice as such, but they're expensive. They cost what, 500? Oh, I can't see them, but I believe they cost 500 olive oil. Another nice Vil kill. Only losing 1 horseman for that, I suppose, could be a better trade, but I don't hate this. You've got your opponent off of gold, though it looks like with the Imperial Official, they've gone... The Imperial Academy makes it a lot easier for China to get Imperial Official out. Look at the reduction on the gold cost. Keep this in mind, everyone, as you're playing against China nowadays. China got some nice buffs. Imperial Academy is good, and they're going to have a lot of gold. So you've got your opponent off gold, which is great, but they don't really need it anymore. Unfortunately, their gold is just going to be a little more boosted than other factions because of that Imperial Official. I say unfortunately, they kind of need it, but... you know, something to keep in mind as you're trying to push in here and do pressure take a look back at the base. Ah, okay. Limits and I think are good no matter what. I don't hate this. I still am a bit thrown off by the fact that we don't already have a direct counter to the spear. I think as much as you want to get the Limits and I out, one of these should be an archery range. Just get some archers. The difference between a Limits and I fighting a spearman and an archer is going to be a world of difference, especially because these Chinese spearmen aren't going to have any buffs or anything. I don't think, yeah, he has a blacksmith out, so he's getting arrow resistance now. He's even getting arrow resistance before he sees your archers coming out. So just know, I mean, if he's only got these barracks, now an archery range comes out because he can make Zhuganu. But before this point, if you had had a couple of archers 2 minutes earlier, I think you would have been able to do even more damage with this early push. If you go in with horsemen and your enemy makes spears, it almost kind of forces you into making archers. And I want to see more archers. Especially since this pressure isn't stopping. You've got more units coming across. If this pressure had stopped, or been earlier maybe, I'd be more okay with it. But the fact that we're not getting archers to fall up against the spearmen is going to be a problem. Because, yeah, you're forced to fall back, and you've got pretty low health horsemen now. I do like this mass, though, that's building up. This is smart. And you've got a nice castle age timing alongside the opponent's castle age timing. So I'm not going to fault you for that. I think that's great. I think, you know, anything around 11, 12 minutes when you're not, like, Delhi or doing, like, a ton of early aggression, that's good. Especially with Byzantines. You want to get through the feudal age and put a little damage on. Now, you have the lead. But he has Song Dynasty. So keeping that in mind, the villager production for blue is going to be higher for now than your production can be. Let's see. Yeah, it's 15 seconds instead of the standard 20. So getting villagers, they're going to catch up to you despite the aggression. But you've got a good military count as well. And honestly, not really floating too much. I think this is probably a little too much wood to be floating. While you're aging up, maybe drop the production buildings for the buildings that you want to get army into. Because as you're hitting castle age here, Backpak, I think you want even more production. This is going to be a nice boost to your unit production already with a longbow in queue. And as soon as the gold comes in, you should be getting the mercenary veteran contract. Which I think is your goal. There's a reason there's 12 on gold. Especially because you're getting free units of this variety. I don't know why it says you don't have the gold for this. But anyway, yeah. Instead of producing... okay, so the gold is for monks, and that's fine. Getting relics is always good. And you've got a fair amount of units. I just think your castle age upgrades would be a big payoff, considering you have... Let's see, where are they? Yeah, since you have a set of longbows with more longbows on the way, not to mention more longbows getting produced out of the Golden Horn Tower, this upgrade is going to change your timing here. And I see the Limits and I know they're strong, but you've only seen spears from your opponent. Okay, and they've got a nest of bees now, the clock tower nest of bees. So the Limits and I will be able to tank some of this because they've got spearmen, they've got the palace guard and the nest of bees, but here comes the Zhuganu now as well. So longbows, especially upgraded longbows, are going to be so strong here. Knowing that China has only made foot units and that their heaviest foot unit is going to be a palace guard, which sits on 4 armor, you're going to really want that longbow upgrade for damage. Because when you get the upgrade, they can kill these early palace guard fairly easy. I say early palace guard, these castle age palace guard. It's like they've got some raids going on, anything. Nice reaction though with the veteran Limits and I. This will be nice, they can just kind of chase this down. But palace guard are gonna be tough against your Limits and I. This brings me back to needing archers and having the right sort of counter to your opponent. Palace Guard, your Limits and I will frontline really well. And yeah, 2 Limits and I can take out this Palace Guard. I just think you need a little more damage. And that's going to come from your units with upgrades, like your longbows with upgrades. Floating a little bit of res as well here. And just to, this is the Diamond 3, like, you can see the difference between the float here. The Diamond 3 player is playing to get these units out. Here comes the fight. And yeah, we dive Horsemen straight into the spears, and there's not enough here now to take this out. And that, good call, seeing the Nest of Bees fall back. Unfortunately, we lose every Horseman except for the one into the spears. So, you know, that's nitpicky. That's stuff to worry about on the back. But I don't see enough unit production on the back of this. We've got 9 against the 9. We've got Nest of Bees. What else is coming out? We don't have a ton coming out right now, actually, for China. China's changed their goal here. That Limit Eye is not going to make it. Rest in peace. And again, a bit of gold float. I know you like having that gold, and we see upgrades coming in now, but this just feels a little too late now. Now we do have the Zhuge out though, and so this is the right upgrade at this point. I just mean maybe some other upgrades earlier, because we don't have a lot in here. We got the melee ones because of those early melee fights. But if we had gotten Steeled Arrow with the longbows, they'd be killing a lot of what your opponent is throwing at you. Because with the upgrade now, it's like I said, upgrade a little bit late. It would have been really nice in that engagement we had on the left side. 8 damage into the Palace Guard, who have only 4. So you'd be doing 4 damage over their armor, which is pretty nice considering they only have 155 health. When you've got enough longbows putting in there, it's gonna add up. Also, just a note, I suppose when you're against China and they start making these Palace Guard, there's more on the way. They're not gonna stop. So crossbows is sort of the obvious answer, especially if you're gonna be playing a long castle age here. There's not a lot of food coming in as you're doing this transition into food and more boar and things like that. You're gonna want some crossbows out just to protect, and you've got a lot of resources you can spend on crossbows. So yeah, let's get some crossbows out. I do love this relic play. It's been very nice, and you've been able to contest your opponent's relics. So they've gotten to tier 5, which is nice, which is very nice. Again, just checking on the float here. A little bit of float on China's side as well. Maybe saving up for some siege, but deciding not to build it just yet. There's that Springald. That'll be nice for the Nest of Bees. But again, yeah, and I think Backpak and I actually talked about this. As we get into this game here, this thing could take 4 Springald shots, the clock tower. This is beefy. And yeah, it's gonna pierce right through Limitonized defenses, unfortunately. These Palace Guard are gonna be really useful. They've got all their melee upgrades, all their piercing armor upgrades. And you've got yours now, but it's too late. This is bad. This front line going down, that's gonna be rough. And I know it looked pretty good, but I think I want to see more upgrades earlier, because you had the lead before this point. You had a moment, I think, where if you're gonna attack and take advantage of a lead, you had a good moment. But now you're against China, and even the villager count is still in your favor. So a couple of nice things going for you here. And you've got the sacred sites. This guy missed it, which is kind of funny. So we take the sacreds, but Spearman comes out, counters that nice and quick. And now he's securing the middle. So obviously, this is another thing. You had a lot of wood earlier, and now the production's coming up. I feel like a lot of this production is too late, because let's look at your opponent's space. They don't have a ton of production, I guess, but they haven't... I guess they don't have a ton of providers. Oh, okay. This answers a lot of questions. Not only has this this imperial official been hanging out under these two barracks, probably pumping out units at a rate of about 4 against China. You know, you need a lot of production. Same reason you need a lot of production against Mongol is the double production. They get huge production boosts when they supervise a military building. Military buildings work 150% faster with an official working on them. So this is like 4 barracks when they've got one hanging out right here, right? And we had some production, but again, you're not going to get olive oil fast enough for these 2 early ones. I think this should have been a mercenary house and an archery range, and then, you know, your barracks and all that kind of stuff. Got Imperial Age coming through now. I'm worried about this Imperial Age though, because as you go Imperial, your opponent is just making units, and it doesn't really look like you've been able to scout it. So this is kind of one of those moments you need to peek and take a look, I think, before going for an age up. Because now you don't have a lot of units in queue. Your main unit production is coming from your Golden Horn Tower. Your opponent's not thinking about Imperial Age. But when your opponent sees that you're Imperial Age, they can push, they could do some damage, and then pull out and go Imperial Age themselves. So they get a lot of scouting information here, knowing that they defeated your army in the middle. That's some nice value. I like the Mangonel Tower there. It's not going to take anyone out, but it sure as hell is going to have the health of their army. So that's pretty nice. They do have a healer here, but that's going to take a while to heal up. It's just going to start burning your outer defenses. Okay. I like these walls. You secure your boar, stone, deer, wood, and stone. Very nice walls over here, and protect the backside of your base. And honestly, over here, I didn't see too much pressure coming. Oh, I see. So you're walling off these Palace Guard. If you're gonna go for such a fast Imperial Age in this matchup, in this game, I almost think you want the walls earlier and all the way across, or like in more strategic kind of positions. Because if you wait too long for these walls, or like you go Imperial Age before getting the walls, then this kind of happens. And I guess you have defenses now, so there is that. They don't have a way through. They have to build a ram or get a trab or something. And here's the production I want to see. Now that you've got that Imperial Age with the Palatine School, so we're going for the sort of the Zerg Byzantine. So we should be making a lot of Limitanei already, and you know, you're working on the food. This production is pretty intense for the food income right now. We need to make sure that we're spiking this up. Probably have too much on stone at this point as well with the splits. Because now that we're in Imperial, we want to be pumping out any Imperial units we can, and I don't think we even have the Limitanei upgrade coming through yet. Yeah, and we don't have any gold getting gathered because he's taken the middle of the map. So that's the thing about these Imperial Ages, and if you go too fast to later ages, you're going to end up in this situation where the opponent doesn't need to age up, and they're going to have more units than you, and they know it. And the other thing is, they know you've got 4,000 gold in your base. That's enough for a few upgrades and some units, but this player's got map control now. They're not even using it yet, but they have map control. A lot of gold sitting from those Imperial officials, among other things, and can beat your army with a Castle Age army. You've spent, what is it, 3,600 resources on your age up just to kind of have to face off against this. And I think crossbows earlier would have been nice because there's a lot of armored units here. I like the Landsconnecta. That'll be nice against them. But he has enough Shuganu, I think, that the Landsconnecta can kind of be focused down. The Varangians are a good choice here as well, I think, because they should outperform the Palace Guard, technically speaking. Palace Guard are quick, though, and so if they sneak away like this, you're not going to be able to catch up to them. Let's take a look at the speed of the Palace Guard. 1.38, and that's going to be against... Wait. No way. Oh, okay, that makes more sense. I was like, there's no way Varangians are faster. There was a little mix-up on the speed tab because of the, I think it's the Berserker mode. We're just not seeing it. No, they're not faster in that mode. Okay, so they're just getting, like, Yeah, again, I think some crossbows would have been nice here. I would have wanted to see more archery ranges. I really think you've leaned way too much into the melee units. And I do this too when I play Byzantine. I make too many barracks and make too many melee units. But the problem is, against a faction like China, they're just gonna run around. They're gonna use these Palace Guard to take over the whole map. And look now, you've got Palace Guard coming under your food on the edges, Palace Guard trying to push through your walls on the side, and they're gonna trade pretty well for the most part. They're a pretty cheap unit. They're a very good unit. I mean, there's a lot of good stuff about the Palace Guard. And now your opponent can kind of just chill, attack, and they're stressed. Like, you can tell this player's like, okay, my opponent is an Imperial, I should be worried. We still don't have any gold coming through. And we're in Imperial Age with veteran units. We do have the Palatine School, which is a nice bonus, but it's not a good enough bonus to warrant going to Imperial Age. Like, you need one of these upgrades to come through. And I know you don't have any gold, but you have a gold mine here. You may have missed it. It looks like you probably missed it, which is, you know, we all make those kinds of mistakes. And finally, okay, now we have villagers going out to secure some gold. This gives us a chance to get our upgrades to hold this. I like that we've gathered the stone, and you're not floating as much. This is nice. I want to see more of this kind of action earlier. It feels like you've been saving up your energy to use it all in the end. But because of this, your opponent's kind of been able to have a lot of free reign of the map. Okay, so otherwise, though, you're in a strong position. Army count, villager count, things are looking good. We've got our upgrades finally. Our blacksmith upgrades are through. We got the Imperial blacksmith upgrades, but I think the elite upgrades are going to be more worth it than popping 2 of the blacksmith upgrades, because you'll get like a +2 on damage for upgrading, whereas with the blacksmith upgrades, you're just going to get another +1. Oof, I think the Berserk here is exposing your units too much to the Zhuge-Nu. They only have, yeah, they've got -2 armor here. So they're taking 5 damage a shot from the Zhuge-Nu, so 15 damage from each volley of Zhuge-Nu. I like this, take out the nest of bees, try to clear some stuff, but this is kind of a rough engagement given the situation. You've charged into the choke points, and so all you needed to do was fire the nest of bees into the choke points, fire the Zhuge-Nu into the choke points, and because your opponent has more ranged units than you, they've got that little ranged ball in the back. It's not even a death ball, but it's the fact that more units can attack at once than you can attack. So your army count was better before this attack, and it looked really good. But this is where, like, this sort of cleverness on defense can really take over. With my Delhi build, I use this all the time. You want tight spaces between your buildings, because if a Byzantine player comes in with predominantly melee units, you're gonna win the fight. And meanwhile, Palace Guard have entered your base. I can see this is so hard to deal with. I'm not going to, I have not much to say as a fellow Plat Diamond player, because yeah, that's hard to deal with. There's a lot you gotta focus on and think about. And we don't have enough at home, really, and I think we should have just, yeah, here's the finished wall. Where did they get through? Did they use a ram? Ah, looks like they may have rammed through. Okay. And this is bad. I can see you starting to fall apart here. Just in terms of vill count, it's already balancing out. And this farms on the back defended by just the Barbican. Honestly, I would have liked some scouting, so we would have been able to find out here. This attack could have completely avoided the main base and just charged into the farm line. The TC is juicy, and we always want to get the TC right, but some scouting would have told us that this is open. And it's still not too late. I mean, the opponent has units in your base, and you're finally dealing with them here. I like that. Getting to deal with this Palace Guard, this is such a pain, and you're doing the right thing. Just chase them. I think some mounted units, some crossbows, again, would be really nice here. We don't have enough ranged units. Because if we have to fight in this choke point again against Nesta Bees and Shuganu, it's not going to be good. Even if we're fighting here, I just like to point out, these units aren't doing anything, and these units are already firing. This is the problem with melee units in RTS in general. That's why a lot of players prefer ranged units in RTS. But it's a good engagement. It's a good engagement. The Nesta Bees are about to... Oh, no. Oh, yeah, that's rough. And now, yeah, these unfortunate... Springall's just not going to do enough damage to Nesta Bees in the current meta, unfortunately. That's rough. Nesta Bees are really strong. China's really strong. Let me just, you know, clarify that looking at this. And this player has done everything right. Like, this is the most exposed they are in the whole area. Like, they're exposed here on the wood line, and they're exposed down here on the food. And this is just one gun. They don't even have the Springald emplacement on the Barbican, so... Yeah, just gonna... I think a little bit of scouting would have gone a long way here, just to figure out where their weak points were. And earlier upgrades. You had some gold in your base. Unfortunately, you missed it. And this is, you know, gonna be just tiredness or something like that. This gold could have gone a long way, because your Imperial Age was too early without access to gold. Were I in that situation, and this is more the way I would play the game, as you know, Backpak, if you're watching, I wouldn't go to Imperial Age if I had no access to gold until I've pushed the middle with a big castle push, especially because my opponent is still in Castle Age. If we get this earlier with the Castle Age and then go Imperial, our gold comes in and all of the Imperial upgrades, Elite Veteran, or Elite Limitanai, Elite Longbows, and that completely changes the interaction you're having with your opponent's army. And now, with some bad fights that really, frankly, have just gone the other way, and you know, the Nesta Bees... It's too late to get those Imperial upgrades. You gotta get these like crazy, and now they're finally coming in at 32 minutes. And again, your Imperial Age was at 20. So what is your Imperial Age doing? Your opponent doesn't need it. Why don't they need it? Well, because they're making units, and frankly, I think the units have been more valuable to your opponent than the Imperial Age was for you. So yeah, you now are getting your upgrades. But your army count is... You've been ahead for a lot of this game. This is the first time China has more units than you do. But they've been playing it safe. They've been careful. And again, one of the big things is the army comp. The long-range units are going to get a lot of value when you don't have a ton of long range. And finally, we do have some longbows, and we do have the elite upgrades here. But look at all this ranged... It's going to be hard to damage this without much range on your end. I like the Springalds. If anyone would make the Springalds, I know it'd be you. And the Springalds are coming out. Very nice. More Springalds. And there goes the Nesta Bees, clearing them out. Very good play, but it's just all front line. And because it's all front line, the front line has kind of been torn up. The Landsconnects focus down, and it's just longbows here. I do like that the Springalds got some damage on the siege. This is valuable, because your opponent doesn't go imp here. You've got the Imperial upgrades, but the production is now in your opponent's favor, and they've caught up to you in the Vil count. Between all these, you know, raids. A little bit of idle there, but that's not too bad. These raids have been really damaging. And it's not easy to shut this down at every level. Palace Guard are really good. But I don't think the Palace Guard raids are necessarily where you've gone wrong in this game either. A lot of this comes down to that Imperial Age timing. And I think a lot of it comes down to some of those early engagements without the right counter units. You really got to keep an eye on what your opponent builds, because the pros say is like, obviously you want to get your best unit. You want to get your limits 9. You get that kind of stuff. But if you come up against spears or archers, you need to make the counter. You need horsemen or archers to deal with the spears or archers. All right, I see the GG here. Not a ton of units left. Makes sense. Keep going down, and you're losing access to the gold. Missing this gold has hurt you really badly too. Got to keep an eye on where your resources are in your base. And outside of that, I think the big thing was unit counters and making sure you build the counter unit when it comes out. Like, the instant you see a spear, you should be dropping an archery range. The instant you see an archer, you should be dropping a stable. And that's something we all talk about a lot. And I think it's something that, makes a really big difference when you're not playing a faction that sets the tone for what types of units are being made. If you're coming up against spears, you can't just bash through it like you can as some other factions. Because, like, Mongols, France, you just want to make knights and archers. It just makes sense. But as a faction like Byzantines or China, which the China player did well here, you need to be making the counter unit to the unit that's coming for you. And you need to be dropping that production using those early resources, because I think if you wait too long, too early, you're wasting a lot of good time that could be used making units, that could be used to put more pressure on your opponent. Otherwise, it was a pretty good game. Your Byzantines are looking really good. I just think the tech is coming out at the wrong times. It's coming out in kind of staggered times. And when you are teching, you really need to execute that tech. Get your upgrades. Make sure you're already on gold before, because you need the gold if you're going to upgrade. Those Imperial upgrades are very expensive. So those are my main notes. Tech at the right time. More like unit production, and make sure your unit production is countering the units you're up against. And a little bit of scouting. Always a little bit of scouting. Just got to know what you're up against and know what types of units you need to make. And again, army comp. The big melee army is going to lose to archer armies in the current meta, in Age of Empires in general, almost 100% of the time. And that's just how it goes. Unless you have like Spear Mangonel. That's how it's going to go. So counter units, more archers, more ranged units, things like that, I think would help a lot. Can't really get away with the melee ball like you can as Japan or something like that. Anyhow, that was a great game. That player was very good. I can see a lot of ways that you can improve, especially in some of those things that I mentioned in that game. And so, hopefully that helped. Hopefully you gained a little something from that. And chat, YouTube, like and subscribe. And if you want your own replays reviewed, let me know what game it is, when you played it, who you played it against, what map, stuff like that. I'll come in, I'll take a look at it, and I'll make a video just like this one. Have a nice evening and day or wherever you are, and enjoy yourself and take care of yourself. Goodbye.